I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear.
Bullshit. This guy's so full of shit, it's coming out of his ears. The point he was trying to make? Wait. The point he was trying to make? Jimmy, I thought you said it was supposed to be a joke.
Or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever. And also, selfishly...
Perhaps you should tell that to your constituents, that violence isn't the solution. Not now, not ever. As they continuously find themselves on national TV, on the airwaves, on social media, on TikTok posts and reels, promoting, encouraging more violence.
I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers because of what I choose to say. And I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love. So that's what I wanted to say on that subject. But I don't want to make this about me because, and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
So we have the latest chapter in late night TV turmoil having erupted as Jimmy Kimmel returned to Jimmy Kimmel Live on ABC last night, following his brief suspension, igniting a firestorm from all angles. Conservatives are prompting a sharp response from President Trump. And we do have that, so I'm going to share that with you guys. The drama kicked off last week when Jimmy Kimmel made reckless on-air comments mocking the assassination of conservative Charlie Kirk, falsely labeling the shooter as MAGA gang member, and a lie that fueled outrage led to, at the time, his indefinite ABC an indefinite ABC pull. Granted, that didn't last very long. And this resulted in his temporary suspension being pulled off the air. There were jokes about Marco Rubio taking over the show for the meantime, but that was just some fun internet meme joking around that we can do because we don't live in California, right? But back on the air, Jimmy Kimmel offered a tepid apology week, claiming no intent to trivialize the murder and distancing the shooter from any group. But critics, sound mind voices like Scott Jennings, called it disingenuous, noting his initial misinformation, keyword here, misinformation. The killer was a confirmed left-wing extremist. Yeah. Several ABC affiliates, including Sinclair and Nexstar, owning roughly 25% of the stations, refused to broadcast the episode, signaling potential advertiser losses and a looming viewer exodus, not to be confused with the numbers you see, for instance, on YouTube, where there are people like me and other channels you watch probably tuning in, not because we give two shits about Jimmy Kimmel, but because we are going to discuss it, comment on it, react to it. So there's that. President Trump took to Truth Social. I completely messed that one up. Truth Social to share his thoughts and opinions And he talks about ABC's decision to reinstate Jimmy Kimmel despite prior cancellation promise. And granted, the left, the media, Democrats, they're going to use this as their own angle of Trump's retribution and weaponizing and political enemies or whatever, this, that, and the other. But it's just like, not really. He's just kind of following up on exactly what ABC said that they were going to do. It just so happens to be Jimmy Kimmel, and nobody likes him. Be that as it may, despite their prior cancellation promises, President Trump labeled Jimmy Kimmel a talentless DNC puppet spewing Democrat propaganda, highlighted his $16 million salary as a network liability, and threatened another lawsuit against ABC, recalling a 2020 $15 million defamation settlement. And this amplified by Benny Johnson's post, sharing how Trump considered this to be a long overdue reckoning for media bias, with replies mocking the pathetic left's fading relevance. And just as a quick recap here, sadly, Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a left-wing radical. And earlier this month, Jimmy Kimmel made offensive MAGA gang remarks. Quips sparked backlash, leading to ABC's indefinite suspension, which wasn't very long. Moving on to just 3 days ago, Disney faces boycotts, calling and protesting as the woke mind virus knows no bounds for which it will infect its host, its parasitic ways. And these same people who boycotted Ron DeSantis because of Disney are now boycotting Disney because of ABC, and the list goes on and on. Like, these people have no idea. And half these people are just paid to be there. I've got a clip. I don't even know if I can show it, but there's a clip of a guy protesting for Democrats. And clearly this guy is just completely stoned out of his mind, doing that little lean. And it's like their challenges, their ideology, they're as weak as their presidential candidates, Kamala Harris. And we're going to talk more about that later. So stay tuned, folks. Don't let Medicare mistakes cost you thousands or your health. Call Chapter now for free expert help. And Medicare costs are skyrocketing. According to Kiplinger, Medicare premiums, deductibles, and surcharges are set to soar starting in 2026, potentially draining your savings over the next decade. The Wall Street Journal projects Part D prescription drug premiums will jump, and the Medicare trustees report estimates Part B premiums could rise from $185 to over $206 in 2026, an 11% increase. Now, these are projections and are not completely official, but meanwhile, NBC Bay Area reports a record number of Americans are enrolling in Medicare, making it critical to act fast during the annual enrollment period.
Because we are just weeks away from the annual enrollment period for Medicaid. Today in the Bays, Bob Riddell joining us live this morning. And Bob, I know for a lot of folks, choosing that right plan can really seem overwhelming.
Correct. Good morning to you, Marcus. We are talking about Medicare, and this year a record number of Americans, almost 4.2 million, will turn 65 and become eligible for coverage under the U.S. federal government's Medicare plan. The annual enrollment period starts October 15th, runs through December 7th. So this means this is not only for new enrollees who should be getting the information throughout the years they're turning 65, but for current enrollees who want to change coverage. So we spoke with United Healthcare, who reminds us that the choices can be overwhelming. New enrollees need to decide between cost and coverage. They need to balance those two issues. So when it comes to cost, how much do you want to pay in premiums, deductibles, copays, and coinsurance? And when it comes to coverage, do you need anything beyond the doctor visits and hospital care? What about coverage for things like drugs, dental, vision, and hearing?
I would say that the most important thing for people to check is just that your doctors and your drugs are both covered. These are critical to people's lifestyle, to meeting their health goals, and ultimately with their satisfaction for the plan. So check the network, which is the list of covered hospitals and doctors that a plan has, and the formulary, the list of covered drugs.
Again, the annual Medicare enrollment runs from October 15th through December 7th. You can find more online at usa.gov/Medicare. We'll post that link on our website at NBCBayArea.com. Reporting live, Bob Riddell, back to you.
AEP, October 15 to December 7. To secure the right plan for 2026, the dark side of waiting, folks, is a costly nightmare. Now, imagine this. You skip reviewing your Medicare plan because it's fine or feels like a hassle to you. And then, boom, January 1 hits and your plan no longer covers your doctor, your critical medications, or that specialist you rely on. And I know that this has happened because you have told me. You've told me that in the past, you've experienced these headaches, these hardships, and worse, you're stuck with higher premiums or out-of-pocket costs that eat into your fixed income, potentially thousands of dollars that you can't afford. And for some, delays could mean missing life-saving treatments due to uncovered services or unaffordable copays. Now, the American Journal of Managed Care warns that even Medicare's extensive coverage leaves seniors with substantial cost sharing, hitting low-income beneficiaries hardest. And with telehealth flexibilities expiring on the 30th of this month, the National Law Review states access to care could shrink if you're on the wrong plan. And procrastination could haunt you for years. Every year, millions of seniors stay on outdated plans, overpaying by an average of $1,100 or losing coverage for essential care. Plans change annually, premiums rise, benefits shift, and some plans disappear entirely. If you don't act during the AEP, you're locked into your choice until 2027, risking financial strain or gaps in care that could impact your health for years. Don't let fear of pushy agents or overwhelming options stop you. Waiting could be a lifelong regret. But we have a solution. Call Chapter today for free. Trusted help. The Medicare annual enrollment period, October 15 through December 7, is your chance to take control. Don't navigate this maze alone. Call Chapter 270-467-2426. Call Chapter for free advice, expert advice. Unlike pushy agents bombarding you with spam, Chapter's licensed advisors search every plan nationwide to find the best fit for your needs, saving seniors just like you an average of $1,100 a year, sometimes far more. In just 20 minutes, they'll review your current plan, confirm it's still right, or help you switch to one that covers your doctors, prescriptions, and budget. No pressure and no cost, just peace of mind and the potential at huge savings. Chapter offers unbiased expertise. I'm sure you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. As you've told me, you've called. As you've told me, you've heard about them on my wife's channel. As you've told me, you've seen them on Glenn Beck and Dave Ramsey. They're not tied to one insurer, so you get honest recommendations. They perform a comprehensive search. They analyze every Medicare Advantage Part D and Medigap plan to match your unique needs. Fast and stress-free, get clarity in under 20 minutes and avoid the AEP chaos. Proven savings. Think about it. It's like coming here and getting a fresh dose of all the latest news and information, helping you stay informed, educated, and prepare for what's coming next in a short, condensed 20-minute period. Proven savings. Seniors have saved big while securing coverage for critical care like hospital stays, outpatient services, and prescriptions. Act now. Don't risk your health or your wallet. And with Aetna expanding support for Medicare Advantage transitions and the latest about skilled nursing news and the AEP clock ticking, now's the time to act. Call Chapter. Call Chapter at 270-467-2426. Get your free consultation. Tell them Kevin sent you. Folks, Time is of the essence during AEP, so don't wait. Whether you're new to Medicare, switching plans, or just want to confirm you're covered for 2026, Chapter's experts will guide you to the right plan, saving you money and protecting your health. Pick up the phone today, call 270-467-2426, and let Chapter turn Medicare confusion into confidence. Your future self will thank you. Fast forward to today, or last night, Jimmy Kimmel returned with a weak apology, and President Trump is threatening legal action. Affiliates skip the show amid predicted viewership drop, and they want nothing to do with him. Now, this isn't just a late night spat, folks. It's a glaring example of the left's hypocrisy, mainstream media's liberal slant, and decades of unfair treatment towards us. Conservatives, and here's the breakdown. Cancel culture's one-sided sword, the left has wielded outrage to destroy careers over minor missteps. Roseanne Barr, 2018, and several others were swiftly axed by Disney. Yet Jimmy Kimmel, after joking about a political murder, so he says, and smearing MAGA. Love you, bud. Love you. Lying on national TV, gets a golden parachute back with a $16 million paycheck. We'll see how long that lasts. And we've got so many folks here. We got Hogan Gidley on CNN hitting the nail on the head with the left rage more over Jimmy Kimmel losing his job than a man losing his life. Charlie Kirk.
First of all, the collective anger over someone losing their job from the left was way more than someone who lost his life, first and foremost.
That's not true.
Second of all, I would argue, Congressman, you're absolutely right. It's more important to have an open and honest, fair, robust conversation, getting different viewpoints when you have a global pandemic that came in from China that was unforeseen, that was unprecedented, and no one ever thought possible. On top of that, it's always the Republicans, it's always conservative views that get silenced, shadow banned, censored from these various algorithms. The glitches never cut the other way. The mess ups in the coding never skew against Democrats. It's always conservative.
What are you talking about?
So Jimmy Kimmel coming back to air, fine. It was a business decision made by the parent company when he clearly wasn't going to apologize. He wasn't going to say he lied, even though he clearly did. The facts were already out there that it was not a MAGA shooter. He tried to make it so. So they have every right to kick him off the air, and they have every right to bring him back on. And Brad and I are going to disagree here. I don't care how many jokes he tells about conservatives versus liberals. I don't care how many guests he has on, whether they be more conservatives or more liberals. The marketplace will decide his fate and his future. And if he can't get ratings as he can't now, chances are his days are short on ABC.
Where was the left's justice for Charlie Kirk? This double standard protects their own while burying conservatives where even the left said eat the rich. Yet Jimmy Kimmel gets a pass. The media's liberal bias has been exposed time and time again. ABC, CNN, and the like have long served as Democrat megaphones. Let's add in MSNBC to the mix, but I got to tell you guys that MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, they play by their own set of rules. And granted, they were there as an extension, a surrogate, in essence, of Kamala Harris to attempt to steal an election in 2024 for which it didn't work. Well, now they don't really work for her anymore. They work for her boss, her handler, whoever it is behind the curtain pulling the strings. And even Rachel Maddow basically slaps Kamala Harris in the face by making the statement that in her book, she declined Pete Buttigieg as being her VP running mate because he was gay.
I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That
was a statement made by Rachel Maddow for which Kamala Harris says, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right here.
because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay.
I didn't say that. And see, this is the game that they play. They make statements that somehow appear as questions, and most people won't pick up on the fact that there's a difference. And they will eat their own when told to do so, when their paychecks are on the line. I think Rachel Maddow makes more money than Jimmy Kimmel, so she's going to do and say whatever the hell the network tells her to do and say, or on her own, based on her own perception of survival. And so that would be a great day, but a very sad day for Rachel Maddow to be unemployed, because she knows that she would be the butt, the laughing stock of all the jokes. Kamala Harris says that Donald Trump has no floor. Well,
My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for President of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for President of the United States, and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but
That
we had such a
Yeah.
short period of time, and the stakes were so high. I think Pete is a phenomenal public servant. And I think America is and would be ready for that. But when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks to go, and maybe I was being too cautious, I'll let our friends, we should all talk about that. Maybe I was. But that's the decision I made, and I, as with everything else in the book, I'm being very candid about that.
Yeah.
With a great deal of sadness about also the fact that it might have been a risk.
well, if the shoe fits, I'll put it that way. If the shoe fits, folks. And, in regard to President Trump having no floor, yeah, I mean, Kamala, if you put yourself out there and Pete Buttigieg is as gay can be, as gay as, $3 bill, own it, own it. But, President Trump is no stranger to the gays. I mean, Scott Pressler. I think there's a difference, though, with Pete Buttigieg, though. You guys let me know. I don't know how many times I've seen Scott Bessent or Scott Pressler wearing a prosthetic or doing these staged photos in delivery rooms, taking up space for real pregnant women who could use these beds to get a photo op with their adopted child. God help that young person. So there's that. So where was I? The left liberal skewed, extremely partisan, Trump-hating media, legacy media, mainstream media, tried to steal this election. They were Democrat megaphones offering billions in free campaign airtime through skewed coverage. And Jimmy Kimmel's show, according to President Trump, is a DNC mouthpiece peddling 99% left-wing garbage. And this is just a real example of how life works. Because if you meet someone and the only thing they have to say is something negative and something bad about other people, it really should tip you off to who they are and what they're all about. And if they don't have anything good to say about anything or anybody else, or even them, even from their own perspective, that's exactly what I was talking about with these Democrats. It's only Trump this, Trump that, and they have no ground to stand on of, okay, well, our candidate this, our candidate that. That's true, not lies and made up and, fudged numbers, forged stats and poll statistics.
The sitting vice president enters the race against a former president of the United States who's been running for 10 years with 107 days to go. And it ended up being the closest presidential election in the 21st century. And by the way, another piece of what is unprecedented and a bit historical about that race, it is the closest presidential race in the 21st century in terms of the outcome.
Wow.
The closest.
You know, say that again, because he likes to say over and over again he's got a mandate.
And that's part of why I wrote this book.
And then to talk bad about their own after the fact, it's like, damn.
My concern about him running for re-election was completely separate from my admiration and knowledge about his capacity to serve as president of the United States, which was consistent and never wavered.
Well, when we sit here, as we sit here today, do you think he would have been up for running the country for 4 more years?
Here's the distinction that I make. It's and having had the experience myself, it is one thing to have the capacity to govern. It is another thing to go through an election for president of the United States. So you are an athlete. You may appreciate this kind of metaphor. Running for president of the United States is like being in a marathon at a sprinter's pace with people throwing tomatoes at you every step you take. It is not for the lighthearted. It takes an incredible amount of endurance and stamina. And can you imagine doing it while you are also carrying literally the weight of the world as being president of the United States? So the distinction I make is about capacity to be president and what that election would require in that campaign, especially running against Donald Trump.
Other things she said, and I don't pick on her, I wish, this is probably an exciting time for her. She's on a book tour and I think, but she said that she didn't have time on her side. And I actually thought she was lucky there were only 107 days, because the more and more people did see her, she had no interviews for the longest time. And then she did an interview that was pretty bad. I think it was with CNN. I think it was with Dana Bash. And then she did the one on The View that we just saw. The more we began to see her, the more time she had was actually, I thought, to her disadvantage, because in the beginning, she had the balloon. She had a spectacular Democratic convention. It was quite exciting and exhilarating. But the more she got out there, that's where the problem arose.
So usually you need more time so that you can raise the money. But Kamala Harris did something we still don't talk about. She, I believe, illegally used all that Biden money that he had raised that she did not raise. Let's be clear. And she was able to transfer that into her account. And then all the big guys, a lot of them came forward and wrote her massive checks. And she was very well funded. So I agree with you, Greta. Usually need the time to raise the funds. She got all the funds she needed. She didn't have a funding problem. She didn't have a timing problem. She was just selling bad goods. The policies that were regurgitated from Joe Biden had already been rejected by the American people, and her personality, I know it sounds mean, but her personality wasn't winsome enough to overcome it.
Kamala's selling out her friends to sell her new book, and there's no coming back from this. Kamala's going after the First Lady, Jill Biden. Remember when Jill kissed Doug at the State of the Union? Well, the doctor pulled Doug aside on the 4th. Doug thought he was getting another kiss. Instead, he got threatened. Jill Biden said, "Are you supporting us?" Doug responded, of course, we're supporting you. Okay, that's really important. We need to know that. Doug got angry, and you won't like him very much when he's angry. He complained to his wife, quote, "They hide you away for 4 years, give you impossible bleep jobs, don't correct the record when those tasks are mischaracterized, and still they have to ask if we're loyal." Kamala regrets not throwing Biden under her electric bus earlier. She said this moment was like pulling the pin on a hand grenade. Watch.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Kamala tried being graceful, and it killed her campaign. Biden, he was bitter. He threatened Kamala on the night of her debate. And then the day after, put on a Trump hat. Kamala says MAGA Joe's ego really hurt her. She needed somebody in her corner, but her VP was a huge disappointment. Kamala watched Tampon nod along with Vance at the VP debate. and was yelling at her TV screen. You're not here to make friends with the guy who's attacking your running mate. We know tampon wasn't her first pick. She wanted Mayor Pete, but thought he was too gay. Pete read the book, and he's not happy with Kamala.
I was surprised when I read that. I just believe in giving Americans more credit than that. My experience in politics has been that the way that you earn trust with voters is based mostly on what they think you're going to do for their lives, not on categories.
Kamala had her eye on Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, too, but thought he'd steal the spotlight from her and thought he was too cocky. Shapiro kept asking his aides about how he should redecorate the VP's residence. And he's not happy with Harris either. Shapiro says Kamala was part of the cover-up.
Look, I haven't read the former vice president's book, and she's going to have to answer to how she was in the room and yet never said anything publicly.
Kamala tried calling Newsom too, but he sent her to voicemail. Quote, hiking. We'll call back, wrote the former vice president in her notes from her calls that day. Never called her back. Newsom's smart enough not to jump on a sinking ship. Waltz, the perfect sucker for the job. At least he got cupcakes for election night that had to be redecorated as the results rolled in. Quote, Harris's social secretary peeled icing that read Madam President off the cupcakes that had been ordered for the occasion and sent them out to the campaign staffers along with wine. Trump called Kamala after she conceded. Turns out the dictator wasn't so mean. Quote, I'm going to be so nice and respectful. You are a tough, smart customer, and I say that with great respect. And you also have a beautiful name. I got use out of that name. It's Kamala. Democrats are in deep. Their last nominees on a book tour trashing the party, and the bench is full of commies and crazies. Right now, the betting markets have Hunter ahead of Crooked, Beto, and Bernie. He's the only Democrat that can blow through $2 billion quicker than Kamala.
She wouldn't take on Pete Buttigieg because he was gay, because she said it was a risk to have a running mate who was a gay man. Your reaction?
Three things, Maria. First, it shows her emphasis on identity politics, and the American people have moved on. Two, it shows how low regard she holds the American people, that she was just a terrible candidate. And three, you wouldn't pick Pete Buttigieg because he might have been the worst transportation secretary in history. Like, if I thought I was left a mess at Treasury, I can tell you, your friend, my friend, Sean Duffy, our great transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg left him a mess. The FAA is a disaster. The Amtrak, anything to do with transportation was woefully neglected over the past 4 years. So, she judges him on his identity, his sexuality. Let's look and see whether he did a good job. Let's look on merit, and I can tell you, on merit, he's a failure, and on merit, she's a failure.
Pretty dirty. And so the 2020 ABC settlement proved that their pattern of deceit was real, but yet they continue to platform Jimmy Kimmel and his lies. Just recently, a Journal of Communication study found a 15% rise in perceived government media collusion since 2016. How ironic, given the Democrats' cries of authoritarianism over Trump's FCC moves, while Biden's FTC censored right-wing voices. How many conservative YouTube channels did you used to watch that got pulled? How many prepper channels did you used to watch that got deleted and shadow banned? We conservatives have been shortchanged for decades. Republicans have faced blacklisting, no Fox stars on late night, FCC penalties for bias, and economic hits from left-wing boycotts. Example, Media Matters. And Trump's lawsuits aren't bullying. They're a market correction after years of rigged rules. I mean, the judges are finding and granting the judgment to President Trump. And we don't run the courts, okay? You know how screwed up the court system is. Meanwhile, Democrats and their anti-Trump temper tantrums are a pure circus, dumping Tesla stock at a loss, boycotting Disney, such hypocrites, so hypocritical, holding vigils for Venezuelan criminals, mocking school shootings, prayer victims, and overdosing on Tylenol to own Trump. It's childish defiance against his leadership, his wise and sound logic. I gotta show you guys. I gotta show you guys this one here, because this is actually just a short list that I have to share with you here. And it says that not a year into Trump's second term, and we have so far gotten Democrats to do the following: sell their Teslas at a loss, cancel their Washington Post and Amazon Prime subscriptions, boycott CBS, ABC, and Disney, hold candlelit vigils for Venezuelan narco-terrorists, fly to El Salvador to have margaritas with MS-13, refuse to stand up for kids with cancer, get fired for cheering political assassinations, mock the victims of a school shooting for praying, and over on Tylenol despite Trump and Bobby Kennedy. Don't get me started on that one, folks. Sad, tragic. I hate to see it. And unfortunately, the children are the ones that, will suffer the consequences of the woke mind virus infected moms and parents that will literally harm their own to spite President Trump. Make it make sense, folks. This one is actually extremely funny. It says, next week, LOL, President Trump says, don't drink your... And you can see the response that liberals will have after the fact. And I think that there was even a clip. Think about this. There was a clip of a woman beating a Trump-like piñata, okay? There was a clip of very, very gruesome imagery of a doll, life-size doll of President Trump, dragging him through the streets. Folks, these people, there's something wrong with these people, okay? There's a clip I got here. I'll show you. It's like, these people are not well. The furthest that we've ever gone was, let's go Brandon. Think about that. The furthest we've ever gone was, let's go Brandon. And accountability for telling lies on public airways. Like, we are not the same. Oh, man. But the free market delivers justice, folks. No government needed. The market's verdict is clear. Money talks, right? Jimmy Kimmel and his left-leaning Trump hater peers, his dwindling audience, more than likely just a soundtrack, built their brands on anti-Trump vitriol, okay? And their ratings soared 20% from 2016 to 2020, according to some reports, spinning lies to dwindling audiences, and they are fleeting. They found it entertaining and amusing at first, but then they were like, wait, this isn't true. It's actually kind of getting old. We're tired of hearing it. And everything that you're telling us that isn't funny, the opposite is actually helping to improve not only the country, but the lives of U.S. citizens here. And so, even Stephen A. Smith is like, look, I don't love Trump, but I can't sit here and say he hasn't done anything well for this country.
Trump. Listen, I got a lot of problems with Donald Trump, a whole lot of problems. I truly, truly do. But I will say this. I can't say the man has done nothing right. I can't say that the border situation hasn't improved. Mm-hmm. I can't say that I can't ignore that the economy hasn't fallen, that's fallen apart. I'm still waiting for the results of the tariff war, the real results. I'm still waiting for him to resolve the Ukraine-Russian war. And it's nice to see him speak in favor of Ukraine for a change. But to say you can't think of anything that he has done shows the partisanship, how flagrant it is, how unproductive or counterproductive it is, and how she was not the right person to lead this country. And she, as far as I'm concerned, is done in politics. I cannot see the Democratic Party supporting her one iota moving forward.
And so viewership's already down post-Trump, okay? The well is dry in this second term here. 30% down since 2024. Affiliates are bailing, Jimmy Kimmel being proof of that. And Disney's stock slipped 2% this week. I think even, Stephen King was found out, by saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, and no one's watching his freaking movie. Without President Trump and us, again, free market delivers justice, folks. As the left's perceived punching bag, they're floundering. And consumers are voting with remotes and dollars. forcing these late night relics into irrelevance. And Jimmy Kimmel's weak apology won't save him. Odds are, expect a steep ratings dive as America tires of the tired Trump hate narrative. It's over. It's done. Like, no one's buying it anymore. It's like trying to get on TV right now and promoting, getting the jab. Like, people it's finally have woken up. They have finally woken up. And the rigged system that they have been using that obviously did not benefit them unanimously voted. Every swing state, this is a mandate, folks. The rigged system's unraveling thanks to 47's foresight and the free markets calling the weak game over for the left's fading stars.
Well, I don't think they're the same, simply because Biden, if any of this took place, these weren't jokes. This wasn't a TV show. This was a pandemic. And we didn't need to have misinformation going out about this pandemic. There was enough coming from the president at the time. Put Clorox in your veins? That's the kind of foolishness the Biden.
Jim Clyburn on CNN. It's like a masterclass in how the same folks who scream misinformation from the rooftops end up peddling it themselves. Do you think they know that they're doing this when they're doing it? You think there's got to be something inside of them that says, hey, dude, you're a lying sack of shit. Like, don't do this. I don't know. Maybe they drank so much Kool-Aid that they have no more morals in their compass at all whatsoever. So picture this, folks. You're watching the news, expecting some straight talk on free speech and COVID, but instead you get Jim Clyburn doubling down on the idea that censoring accurate pandemic info was no big deal if it smelled like misinformation to the powers that be. And then in the same breath, he twists that what Trump actually said during that wild April 2020 briefing into this absurd tale of put Clorox in your veins. Yeah, it's like, come on, dude. I don't think Trump ever said that. But that's the Democratic playbook in a nutshell, folks. Accuse the other side of lies while serving up a heaping plate of exaggeration yourself. I mean, did Trump really say that? Did he? No. Straight up, to be honest with you, no, he didn't. So what we're going to do is let's rewind. Let's rewind to the real moment, because facts matter here, folks, especially when we're calling out hypocrisy on misinformation. And back on April 23rd, 2020, during a White House coronavirus task force briefing, some scientist guy named Bill Bryan was talking about how sunlight and disinfectants like bleach could zap the virus on surfaces and, wiping down doorknobs and countertops, the usual stuff, right? For we all got strung out on fucking hand sanitizer. But President Trump, rifling off like he does, gets curious and says something to the effect of, and I quote, "And then I see the disinfectant."
Thank you very much. So I ask Bill a question that probably some of you are thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Get the right folks who could. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
Where it knocks it out in a minute. 1 minute. And is there a way that we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? And he was musing out loud, clumsily, sure. Granted, it's kind of like me here. I know some people take things way too literal. And this is more figuratively speaking, folks, but whether medical professionals could explore internal applications of something like that, maybe through the skin or lungs to fight the virus where it hides, not just pouring billions of dollars into Pfizer and forcing it onto people, not a prescription, not a go chug bleach, and definitely not Clorox in your veins, Jim Clyburn. Hell, even the White House doctors later clarified it was about exploring UV light or sterilization methods, not a DIY home remedy.
For the most part, I wish him well, man. I hope there's certain things that he oversees that seem to be supported in a bipartisan way, like getting terrible toxic stuff out of our kids' food. I think that's a great thing. And so if you do that, that's amazing. I'd hate to be so mired in hatred for the president that any success from his administration is something I'd have an allergic reaction to. To be like, oh, well, if they do it, I don't want it to happen. I'll put Clorox in my children's cereal myself. It's like, come on, be reasonable here. There's certain things that would be a good thing to have. I want them all to be successful.
And this is what the left likes to do. And they like to take these little clips and exaggerate them or chop them up. And, and sadly, their followers, the few that they have left, actually believe it, actually repeat it. And it's kind of like President Trump. You give him an inch, he takes a mile. But it's, you gotta understand, like, this, he's a real person. He's a cool dude. And even after you shut off an escalator, even after you create audio issues, even after you cut off a teleprompter, he's still going to speak. He's still going to talk. And what he says at that point, well, get your popcorn out, folks.
All right, Caroline, it does appear to be sabotage with the escalator and the teleprompter. What is the White House going to do about that?
Well, Jesse, that's definitely what it appears to be to me. And that's why I put out a statement earlier. There was some concerning reporting over the weekend from the London Times, as you pointed out, that UN globalist staffers were basically plotting to set up the president of the United States. And first it was the escalator, then it was the teleprompter, and then Katie Pavlich from Town Hall, who we offered a seat in the press pool to cover the president's historic speech today, noticed that the audio inside of the room was much lower and different for the president of the United States than the previous speaker. So when you put all of this together, it doesn't look like a coincidence to me. And I know that we have people, including the United States Secret Service, who are looking into this to try to get to the bottom of it. And if we find that these were UN staffers who were purposefully trying to literally trip up the president and the first lady of the United States, well, there better be accountability for those people. And I will personally see to it, Jesse.
Good.
No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. I don't mind making the speech without a teleprompter because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless, and that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much.
But here's where it gets juicy. The media frenzy hits. Headlines scream, Trump tells people to inject bleach. Boom. Sound bites galore. The left is so thrilled, and suddenly it's gospel to them. Mighty fine people hoax. Fast forward to today, and Jim Clyburn's on CNN repeating the same warped version word for word as if it actually happened, and it's Exhibit A in this cross-examination for why censorship was a public service. Back then and today, depending on who, it's okay to censor your rivals. But it's not okay if President Trump has Jimmy Kimmel censored, although President Trump didn't have Jimmy Kimmel censored. There's that. And so, meanwhile, the real misinformation circus during COVID was actually perpetuated by folks like Jim Clyburn on the left. Lab leaks dismissed as conspiracy, masks that flip-flop by the week on whether you needed them or not, school closures that wreck kids' lives on shaky science, and yeah, anyone still buying those tall tales, hook, line, and sinker. I've got a bridge that I want to sell you in Palestine. But like I said, it's time for that reality check, folks. And it's all just selective memory to keep the narrative spinning for now. But what do you guys think? Do you ever feel like the misinformation label is just code for stuff that doesn't fit their script? And speaking of stuff that doesn't fit their script, breaking due to oversight efforts, this is according to Representative Jim Jordan, Google, get this, folks, Google commits to offer all creators previously kicked off YouTube due to political speech violations to return to the platform. It's funny. It's kind of like the folks who were fired over not getting the jab, who were dishonorably discharged from the military for not getting the jab. Oops, sorry. You can come back. I know we wrecked your lives for the last 4 to 8 years, but you can come back now. 4 to 6 years, maybe. I don't know, depending. YouTube's been doing this for a while, so we could probably go back 8 years. And what we have here, this post from Jim Jordan reveals a 2025 letter from Google to Representative Jim Jordan admitting YouTube censored COVID-19 content under the Biden administration pressure, including videos not violating policies, aligning with a 2021 peer-reviewed study. And I wish I had it. I challenged it on a different channel, and YouTube gave me a suitability strike on one of my videos. And I asked for human review. And they, of course, have since confirmed that the video was suitable for all audiences. Usually, you get an email that updates you to that, whether it's no, we confirm that it's not suitable, or yes, we confirm that it is suitable. I haven't received that yet, and I'm not sure if I ever will, because it was literally a video of me putting my dog in the back seat of the car. What was wrong with that? What was wrong with that, YouTube? Granted, that was on my car channel, but be that as it may, YouTube has made a commitment to reinstate banned creators and abandon third-party fact checkers following a 2024 Meta admission of similar Biden administration pressure supported by internal emails, marking a shift after congressional probes uncover a 2021 White House demand to remove a non-violative meme. Okay. Gavin Newsom's trying to do the same shit in California. Okay, folks. So,
middle of all of this, something else happened around free speech, something nobody seems to be talking about, happening in the background while none of us are paying attention. The bluest state in the country, California, just passed the most censorious bill ever to be introduced in this country, SB 771, passing the Assembly on September 10th, 10 days ago, then on September 16th, passing the Senate completely under our noses, which means right now, all that stands between complete statewide government censorship is Gavin Newsom's signature. Now, am I exaggerating about how bad this bill is? No, I am not. Here is the actual bill. You can pull this up yourself on the state's website. The bill's called SB 771. It's called Personal Rights Liability Social Media Platforms. In Section 2, Title 23 of the bill, it defines the penalties for breaking this new California law. If you post something on social media anywhere online that the state of California deems to be hateful, there's a penalty for that reckless violation, a civil penalty of up to $500,000. For an intentional, knowing, or willful violation, a civil penalty of up to $1 million. That is the definition of the state controlling speech, folks, not what Trump just did. We don't like what the FCC chairman happened to say on Benny Johnson's show, but there's a huge difference between that and real government censorship. And what type of speech is California trying to police here? Well, let's read from the bill. It says, this bill protects against online harassment, particularly when directed at historically marginalized groups. Which means what? If you were to, I don't know, point out who the Kavanaugh assassin is, which we all just learned about this morning in this new court filing, if you were to say who that person is, would you be fined $500,000? Pretty frightening. All of this happening in the midst of the media and Democrats, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris making hay out of Trump trying to attack the First Amendment. Meanwhile, the state of California is actively passing UK-style laws that will fine you for saying the wrong thing. Pretty wild. And this bill is completely done, folks. It's passed in the House. It's passed in the Senate. All that's left is Gavin Newsom signing it into law.
Granted, Gavin Newsom thinks that he's king of California because this is not how this shit works. How he thinks he can demand and tell federal agents how they're going to behave and act and conduct themselves in the state of California.
It's like a dystopian sci-fi movie. Unmarked cars, people en masse, people quite literally disappearing, no due process, no rights in a democracy where we have rights. I'll be signing a bill, the first in the nation, saying enough. ICE, unmask. What are you afraid of? And I'm really proud of the state of California and our state of mind that we're pushing back against these authoritarian tendencies and actions of this administration.
Is this one of those things where Gavin Newsom does this and the left loves it, and then if he ever gets to the general, he just gets hammered?
Okay, so do you remember? Yes. So what that event was like a fake bill signing.
Yeah.
It's a messaging bill. There's no authority to it. There's no power to it. And one of the things that also happened last week is Governor Newsom signed a bill to expand oil drilling in his state. That didn't go down so well with the left. So you got to throw the left a little bone. And the bone is a bill that has no teeth, in which also he went on the secret police rant. He said he compared ICE to the secret police, North Korea, Nazis, all the exact same things that the lunatics on that Discord chat were talking about with the assassin of Charlie Kirk. I mean, to me, I think that he's clearly has some people working for him that have decided this is the rhetoric you should use. I don't think it's authentic to him. It doesn't seem like him. And I would be surprised if it doesn't blow up in his face come 28.
I just got out of Governor Newsom's bill signing ceremony for SB 627, the No Secret Police Act. We are now the first state in the country to say ICE and law enforcement, you cannot wear masks while policing our communities. This is a huge accomplishment, and we are so excited to see it signed into law.
Newsflash, Gavin Newsom, federal. You know, there's levels to this shit.
One of the things he's asking for is for them to be able to identify themselves. You see the markings on the vests and the IDs on the vests. I guess my question is, though, with all the political posturing, is this even enforceable?
No, and I want to be very clear about that. The state of California has no jurisdiction over the federal government. If Gavin Newsom wants to regulate federal agents, he's got to win a federal election. But the state of California does not have the power to regulate us, and I've directed our agencies to disregard this silly bill that he just signed.
Yeah, so what happens here then? Local law enforcement try to do something? I know that's not going to be something that they're going to want to do. They have a badge just like the feds do.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any attempt to enforce this criminally. I think what the governor might do is he might file a lawsuit. He might run to a judge to try to get some sort of order. But we're very confident the state of California does not and cannot have jurisdiction. If you had every state trying to regulate the federal government, you would have complete chaos. That's not how the system was set up. And so this is silly. You know what this is about? This is to inflame the public. They have this narrative that people are out there being kidnapped. It's not true. They're federal agents. They're acting under federal law. And if he doesn't like it, he should change the law.
And this disclosure highlights European censorship laws, for example, DSA, threatening U.S. free speech, with a 2023 EU report noting 40% of global content removals stem from these regulations, challenging the narrative of U.S. tech autonomy. And this is getting real bad over in the UK. But unfortunately, sadly, the people have to suffer through this right now. And, 5 to 10 years down the road, it's like, oh, we're sorry. And, here's our weak ass apology, but your life has been screwed up and, turned upside down in the interim. You see what I'm saying here? This is bullshit. Fortunately, there's going to be a reversal. Odds are you're going to start seeing some of your old channel content creators that conservative voices that you used to love to see, watch, and hear return. And I can't wait to see what they have to say if they choose to come back. I can understand them saying, maybe not so much. YouTube's left a bad taste in my mouth. However, at the same time, they could be in the position to receive a tremendous payday with the content that they create. Granted, there's still a possibility that YouTube suppresses them and shadow bans them and limits their reach. So there's that.